Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rock Squad podcast, your destination for the latest in rock music news, reviews, and discussion. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Nick Chino. I'm joined by my co-host and bandmate. It's Dave Marini. What's up, Dave?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Nick. How are you doing, my friend? Hey, before we get started, before you answer me, go down to the bottom of this video, subscribe. If you're listening, subscribe. If you want to hear us anytime, download. We are the Rock Squad podcast. We are available on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, you name it, we're there. Nick, my friend, how's it going?
It's going all right, Dave. How are you?
I'm great. I'm going to start this show off really hyped up because we're going to talk about a lot of sad things in the next little bit.
There are a couple of things, but I know it's been a hard week in rock and roll, of course, with the death of Charlie Watts. Just yesterday, he passed away at the age of 80 years old, which is devastating news in the world of rock music. If you're a Rolling Stones fan, or if you're just a music fan in general, it's devastating news. So we'll definitely be talking about that on this week's headliner topic. But first, we're going to kick the show off with some headliner or opening act topics. Some of the latest items that are happening in the world of rock music news. And this one is for our Canadian rock fans like ourselves. The Headstones, Moist, and Sloan have canceled their Saints and Sinners tour that was going to be going across Canada, along with the Tea Party on that bill as well, featuring, these guys are some of Canada's biggest 90s bands. And it was delayed due to the pandemic. It's been canceled altogether, with the band citing COVID-19 restrictions and roadblocks as a reason to cancel the tour, which, it's so annoying, Dave. Once again, COVID-19 has put a stop to the Rock. So I'm pretty bummed out. I didn't really want to go to the tour. I wasn't going to buy a ticket, but I'm bummed for the people that were going to go. It's a solid lineup of 90s Canadian bands. And I'm just disappointed that COVID has claimed another victim yet again, when we thought we were getting back to rock, and then the rug has been pulled out from under us.
Yeah, man, it's very disappointing. I think I was going to go to that show. So, it's just another hurdle, another speed bump on the recovery back to live music. All those bands, the thing is that if you're in these areas that these bands are from, you're going to get to see these bands. It's not like it's not going to be impossible for you to see them. So it sucks for the tours, for the bands. It just really shows the impact that the pandemic's having on live music. And it's getting really out of hand. And we know firsthand, because we play in a band that we're not quite sure how to handle shows. We're not quite sure when we're going to start playing live again. There's a lot of up in the air questions right now for the musician out there. So I don't know. There's, it's a sad situation right now, and it's a shame that these bands couldn't do something like this and make it work. But this pandemic's thrown us all for a loop, and this is the second year in a row they've had to cancel it. So hopefully they get to do something else, but it is truly disappointing, because it's a sign of what's actually happening in the industry right now.
Yeah, it's hard to make that call, because some bands are continuing with their tours. Weezer, Green Day, Fall Out Boy, even though they had a COVID case and they had to cancel some of their shows on the Hella Mega tour. That tour in the US has largely continued. There are lots of bands on the road, but then there are other bands who are being extra cautious. Every day you keep reading that bands are canceling their tours. Nine Inch Nails just canceled the tour. They just canceled the Saints and Sinners tour. And other bands are touring. Mammoth WVH, I think they had a COVID case on their crew or in the band as well. So it's just so hard. Foo Fighters are on the road right now. It's so hard to decide what the right call is, because you want everybody to be safe, but at the same time, it's so frustrating, because for those of us who got vaccinated, and for those of us who've been trying to do our best to stick to the restrictions and the guidelines, we just want to get back to normal. And we were kind of sold a false bill of goods that all this stuff would lead back to some sort of normalcy. And it has in some ways, because there are bands on the road. There are festivals happening. Lollapalooza happened in Chicago earlier this month, and they said there were hardly any COVID cases that came out of that. So it's a hard call to make. And I suppose it just depends on the band. It depends on the tour. It depends on the itinerary that they have planned out, and whether they feel that they can execute that. But I'm super disappointed, because this was a solid bill. Like you said, they had to cancel it a couple of times, and now they got to pull the plug on the whole thing. And it's just super disappointed. And I hope that going into the fall, that it's not as dire as they say it's going to be.
Yeah, man. I hope so too. It's if everybody's doing their part and everybody gets vaccinated, hopefully we don't reach into another spike and with the numbers and stuff. Like I don't know. It is frustrating because there's so many bands that are out on the road right now that it's not affecting, like you said. And I think that comes down to budget too. Like if you have the budget where you can have rapid tests on site and the staff to check vaccine validation and or negative tests, like if you can afford to have that kind of thing. But when you're talking about like our band that plays clubs and bars, it's really tough to like who's fronting the bill for this. We're already, barely scraping by. So it's a very tricky situation. And you throw in the something that we've been talking about a little bit too, is that the insurance companies now in big cities have gone up. The cost of liability for bars and restaurants right now is through the roof because of COVID.
Right.
So there's becoming more or less and less places for us to actually put on shows legally and and safely. So it's a messy world right now, and we're just writing music and waiting for the storm to settle, I think. So,
yeah,
but
sure.
yeah, I don't know, man. It's a weird time, very weird time in our business,
Yeah, and thankfully we were finally able to get together. We had our first jam with our band Fool's Union last week. The four of us finally got together in a room and started playing some songs. And as we said it before, it just felt so good to actually be doing what we love to do most, which is playing music together. So that was awesome, and hopefully things will continue on a upward trajectory and things stay positive. So we'll see how things go this fall. But the Saints and Sinners tour is not happening. Let's get to our next opening act topic on this week's Rock Squad podcast, and that is rest in peace, Don Everly. One half of the Everly brothers has passed away at the age of 84 at his home in Nashville. Don and Phil Everly made a name for themselves with their great songwriting and, of course, their distinct dual harmonies, which were always so amazing. Phil Everly passed away in 2014, and now Don has joined him in rock and roll heaven. And Dave, when I saw this news, I was really disappointed. Not disappointed. I was really sad to hear this news, because the Everly brothers, I feel like everybody's grown up with a little bit of Everly's. You might not be familiar with everything they've done, but guaranteed you probably heard some of their songs growing up. And when it comes to harmonies, it doesn't get any better than the Everly's, and they influenced so many different groups, like the Beatles, like John Lennon and Paul McCartney, kind of modeled themselves off of Phil and Don. They were trying to echo what those guys did with those 2-part harmonies, and the songs were fantastic too. When you think about the hits like "Bye Bye Love," "Wake Up Little Susie," "Kathy's Clown," a million great songs, and we've been lucky to have these. We'll be talking about Charlie Watts coming up too, and we've been lucky that we've had so many of these classic rock musicians, these legendary musicians, be with us for so long. We're so thankful, and so many of them still are with us, which we're super thankful for. But as time goes on, it's 2021. As we get further into this decade, we are going to keep losing these legends, and it's really going to start to feel like the end of that classic greatest hits, classic rock era. And with the death of Charlie Watts, as we'll talk about, with the death of Don Everly, it does feel like we didn't grow up in that era, but it's still music that's very much impacted us. And it does feel like it's starting to feel more like that end of that era.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like it really triggered or set off when Levon Helm died.
Mm-hmm.
And, and like that kind of was like the end, like that closed the chapter of that. And now that Neil Peart's gone too, it's like all the major Canadian influence, or not Levon Helm, but you know what I mean, like that, like the band's very Canadian, and that kind of thing. It's just it's crazy, man. People don't, we're all walking in the same direction. It's just some of us get there sooner than others. So you never know who's gonna last, who's gonna be around forever, and it's really sad, man. It's really sad that they're all like that era of drummer is just slowly disappearing, But it's happened before too, If you look back in history, all those old drummers, those great Showtime big band drummers, like those were the talk of the town too, and then they sadly move on, and that's that's just the way the world works, you know? So yeah, it's weird, but it definitely closes a little bit of a chapter every time one of these legends passes on.
And we've lost a lot of legendary musicians from one of the later eras too. When you think about the '90s, and we lost Chris Cornell, we lost Scott Weiland, we lost Chester Bennington. Kind of in between classic rock and new rock or '90s rock, you had, we lost Tom Petty. There was quite a few, David Bowie, Prince, right? It's always going to be a continuous thing. People are always going to pass away, but it does feel like we've lost a lot of legendary musicians over the last couple of years, and the rock music world is lesser for it. But we're thankful that we've had Don Everly. We had those songs. I know it's maybe cliche to say, the music will live on in our hearts, but that's the thing about when you're a musician like that and you've made music that has affected the world, is that it does live on and it does endure. And I think that's one of the coolest things that somebody can ever do. If you're somebody, like Don Everly or Charlie Watts or any musician, and somebody's able to remember your song when you pass away, it's like, that is something that not everybody gets to do. Right. So if when we all go, somebody can go to us and be like, hey, these guys made some music. You can listen to them, and hopefully that continues on.
Yeah, well, who would have thought that your late 40s, early 50s was going to be the more tragic than your early 20s as a grunge musician?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because at least when everyone was dying in the 90s, it was like one thing here, one thing there, and it was like, but now all of a sudden it's like, within 5 years, they're just dropping like flies. Every band we love needs a new drummer. So yeah, it sucks, man. It's very, can't stop it. Can't stop it.
That's how it goes. It's the circle of life, as they say. So rest in peace, Don Everly. We'll talk a little bit about Charlie Watts coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's get to our last opening act topic. Speaking of late great musicians, Metallica, not them, are releasing a vinyl tribute to Chris Cornell. They're putting out their own vinyl tribute to the late singer as part of their Metallica Vinyl Club. They're covering Soundgarden's All Your Lives and Head Injury. Both these songs were recorded at the Chris Cornell tribute event, I Am the Highway, a couple of years back. This is ahead of their 30th anniversary reissue of the Black Album, their massive cover song project, The Blacklist. What do you think about this, Dave? What do you think about legends paying tribute to legends?
I think it's cool, man. I think if you dig somebody's art and you want to pay tribute to them, I think there's probably nothing, better than that as a musician. Mm-hmm. If somebody tries to give you that compliment, that grandiose gesture of, I'm going to release it and put it on vinyl because I love that song so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's good. If, obviously everybody has a different connection to different songs and for whatever reason, but I'm all for it. If you're going to pay tribute to somebody, especially when they're such great songwriters like Chris Cornell or somebody like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Why not? I love hearing people's takes on things. I'm not necessarily a tribute guy, but I do like it when people, take their own kind of ownership of the song and do what feels right for them. So I'm all for it. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's turning out that the fall is kind of turning out to be the fall of Metallica, because with the Black Album reissue, with the Blacklist, with this Vinyl Club tribute to Chris Cornell, they've been really getting back at it, which I think is pretty cool. And not to really switch subjects, but they did release a couple more cover songs, like Weezer's version of Enter Sandman. And then I think Royal Blood did Sad But True, I think. So a couple more songs from the Blacklist have been released. So it's cool. And yeah, like we're saying with Chris Cornell, that was one of the more devastating losses the last couple of years, I think. And with him and Scott Weiland, it felt like it was like delayed. We lost Kurt back in the 90s. We lost Lane Staley in the late 90s, early 2000s. We lost Shannon Hoon in the 90s. And so we lost a good chunk of those big names from the 90s grunge era. And then Scott Weiland and Chris Cornell lived a lot longer, but then we lost them for kind of the same reasons that some of those guys died back in the 90s, right? So it just was really, really sad. And Chris Cornell, I could never sing like him, but as a vocalist, I look up to him so much and what he was able to do, because his voice was just incredible. And I was I was disappointed that Soundgarden wasn't able to work out, or they still haven't really worked out getting some hold of the old Soundgarden demos to work on a new album from some of Chris Cornell's stuff, because I really loved King Animal, which was the last Soundgarden album that was released before he passed away. I love some of his solo stuff. And I do dig Metallica, doing some cover songs of his too. So it's a good tribute to Chris Cornell. Metallica keep him busy. I guess it's a win for everybody.
Absolutely, man. I'll check it out.
Right on. So those are our topics of the opening act topics on this week's Rock Squad podcast. Actually, no, wait a minute, Dave. I think we got one more. Hold on. We do have one more. Dave, are you good to talk about one more opening act topic?
Sure.
All right. That is a Guardians of the Galaxy rock album is coming out. I put this on the show today because I love when movies and music intersect and mingle and kind of go together. And I thought this was pretty cool. The Guardians movies are known for their retro soundtracks that James Gunn put together, but now an actual rock album based on this new video game, Guardians of the Galaxy video game, is going to be coming out. The band on the album is called Starlord, of course. The album is going to be called Space Rider. With each song performed by the audio team behind the game. It turns out one of the main audio guys who's developing this Guardians of the Galaxy game is also a metal musician. So he put together this soundtrack of original songs that he wrote. And he was saying that he was writing these songs, he was recording them, and he was getting them approved by the Marvel bigwigs, and they were really into it the whole process through, and they approved all of his songs to be put on the record. So I love Marvel, I love rock. It's awesome when those two things go together, and Guardians of the Galaxy is a very musical Marvel property. So I'm into this. I'll give it a stream on Spotify.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. Like, oh yeah, their soundtracks are epic soundtracks. So it'll be interesting because this could go really well or it could go really bad.
Yeah,
you know?
I heard a little bit online. It's not bad.
It's not bad. So yeah, like that's what I mean. Like you're stepping into some pretty big shoes in this realm. Like they're using some pretty legendary songs to get some big pops in those movies. So it's, to have a record of all of yours being comparative to all those songs that they've used in those movies. Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's big shoes to fill. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out though to see how it does.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it seems like that's something that you would be good at, making some video game music, because you're always working on different ideas. You're working on different loops, different things. I think you would be good at scoring a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
I would, dude. I would love to score a Guardian. Are you kidding me? You would love it if I scored a Guardian. Yeah. Absolutely, I would love to score a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But that, like I said, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
As a songwriter, I'm like, ooh, like that's,
yeah,
it's probably gonna go wrong for a lot of people.
There's potential for it to be cheesy. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the one thing that you have to be careful about, especially when you're doing something that's related to a franchise or a property, and you're trying to reflect that in the music and get a little bit, but otherwise it might be okay.
I would do I think I would do more of a hard rock, guitar riff songs, and I don't know, and ballads, really
space
ballads. Space ballads. That's the theme of the record for sure. Space ballads.
Totally.
The angle would have to be, the song, the era of the songs that are in the other movies, but translated into space ballads.
Nice.
That's what it's got to be.
Yeah, totally, for sure. I'd be down with that for sure. Yeah. Guitar solos everywhere too.
Oh yeah, right? Big galactic guitar solos.
Yeah, it's galactic. Yeah, it can't just be regular. It's got to be galactic.
Out of this universe.
All right, those are our opening act topics of this week's Rock Squad podcast. Let's get to our headliner topic. Unfortunately, it's a little bit on a down note, and that is rest in peace. Charlie Watts, the drummer of the Rolling Stones, passed away on Tuesday at the age of 80. He had recently dropped out of some shows on their upcoming North American tour due to health reasons. We talked about that last week on the show, and it turns out, I guess this might have been more serious than we initially thought. Charlie Watts has been the Stones drummer since 1962. Was a huge part of their sound, obviously, for 50 plus years. He was the rock of the Rolling Stones, the timekeeper, on all accounts, a really great guy. There were some tributes online from various people, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and the list goes on, of course. So, we are both pretty solid Rolling Stones fan. I wouldn't say I'm as big a Rolling Stones fan as I am to say the Beatles, but I am a big Rolling Stones fan. We've covered a lot of Rolling Stones stuff at our gigs in the past, whether that be You Can't Always Get What You Want or Let It Bleed or Jumpin' Jack Flash. So we've covered our fair share of Rolling Stones songs. And Charlie Watts was, I put this on our Instagram yesterday. We talked about legends, right? And legends is a word that you don't want to throw around casually because somebody's really got to live up to that expectation. And Charlie Watts, any member of the Rolling Stones or any of those bands, he was a legend. This guy was a rock and roll original. This guy went all the way back. When you think back to the 60s and when the Rolling Stones started as a blues infused rock and roll band, that the world was different back then, and he, through his music that he did with the Stones, really changed rock music for the better. The fact that he was still going strong all the way to the age of 80 and was going on the road with them is unfortunate that he wasn't able to do the tour or do some more shows with them. But what a legacy, really, when you think about it. Does a legacy get any better than Charlie Watts?
He was a gentleman, my friend. He was a gentleman. And he was a metronome, kind of. But Charlie Watts, fantastic drummer. The backbeat of that band, that blues, soul, rock and roll band from England. It's such a shame, He's 80 years old, obviously. So, he's lived a crazy life, has had a crazy career, has played on so many hit songs. It's just, it's very sad, but he was 80 years old, and, he lived the life of someone who lived to 200. So, it's crazy, very sad, but what a legacy to leave behind.
Yeah, for sure. I was trying to think of some of my favorite songs that Stone songs that he played on, and Jumpin' Jack Flash. We talked about that. We played that in our band. Let It Bleed is another great one. Our buddy John was mentioning Miss You. I was saying Beast of Burden. Are there any other Stone songs that come to mind when you think about like great drums?
Well, I love like the groove and sympathy for the devil.
Yeah.
Just it's so simple. Like he's not doing much, but you throw the bongos on there. You got it's just laying it like just the sweetest groove in the pocket. I've seen the Stones live a few times. It's one of those things. Obviously the last few times that I've checked them out, they're getting up there in the age, man. Like Mick's still doing it. Mick's still running around 2 miles a show, but the rest of them, it's getting pretty rough. But it's a shame to lose Charlie, and hopefully the show will go on. I think they're planning on continuing. So as long as Mick's running around 2 miles, that band's going around the world. So definitely a shame. What a legend! Like he's definitely a true legend of drumming and music. And with that, the OG, man, he was there when they were rock was just Southern United States, and it meant nothing. It was country fairs and nothing. And the Beatles and the Rolling Stones changed everything. They changed the game for everyone, everywhere. So true legend. It's a shame. So many hits. Do yourself a favor this weekend. Go Spotify, deep dive into some stuff. There's tons of. I was watching tons of good Stones footage. There's so much on YouTube. Like through the years, like you can watch something from every decade in high quality. Sounds amazing. So everybody in audio video land, check out some stuff on the Stones this weekend. Relive some of the glory days of a true OG band. And man, it's sad, but we got to keep trucking.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because growing up, I obviously knew the Stones from hearing them on the radio constantly because when we were growing up, they were always on the radio, still are. But I wasn't a huge Rolling Stones fan. I've always been a Beatles fan from the get-go. I've always been a Beatles guy. I didn't really love the Stones growing up, but then somewhere in my 20s, I clicked with them. My early 20s, mid 20s, I started to click with the Rolling Stones. I started to understand them and their music and just Ever since then, I've been a big Rolling Stones fan. It's actually been a while since I've dug in and listened to some of their records, but there's no better time than now, like you're saying. With Charlie passing away, there's no better time to go back and listen to some of those hit records. My favorite records, Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed, Beggar's Banquet, the list goes on. Charlie Watts. I found it funny though that he didn't play the groove on You Can't Always Get What You Want. Their producer,
Really?
Jimmy Miller, played it. Actually, I knew that before, but I read it again yesterday. I guess Charlie just couldn't get the beat with that song, so their producer played on it instead. And I think that there might be more. Rolling Stones fans, let us know. I'm sure you do know. Yeah. There might be more, but that might be one of the only songs he didn't play on.
That's crazy. That's such a cool fact. You know what I mean? Like, but he did play on a ton of good.
Yeah, I know. I was just that one song he didn't play. Come on.
Yeah.
What the hell?
No. Come on. I'm sure there's. You know what? I'm sure there's others. I'm sure there's other ones
for sure.
They have their catalog so deep, man. Like I'm sure there's one that squeaked by that. Someone was sitting in on.
Yeah.
That's sad, man. This has been a sad episode, but
I know
all of these people should be recognized for their contributions to the world of rock and roll.
We couldn't do a show called the Rock Squad, a rock music news show, without talking about some of the most legendary musicians in rock and roll. So that kind of goes along with the territory. And we're really, 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 really sad. And our condolences go out to Charlie Watts' family, his friends, his fans, his bandmates. Not that they care what we think, but condolences to them. And listen to some Stones this weekend. Listen to Dave and listen to some Stones. So that is our Rock Squad podcast for this week's show. We appreciate everybody watching. You can follow me at The Walking Nick. We should do some tracks of the week. We might as well just listen to Stones tracks for tracks of the week.
Stones.
Any
Stones song.
Beast of Burden. Oh, Can't You Hear Me Knocking? Can't You Hear Me Knocking? Yes. Can you hear me knocking? That's the one. So fucking good. Makes me want to do cocaine. I've never done cocaine, but that song, it's in the movie Blow. It's like
makes me want to pack my nose.
Oh God.
My nose.
Man.
Anything Stones. That's across the board.
Yes, Stones all the time. Those are our tracks of the week. You can follow me at The Walking Nick. Follow us at Rock Squad Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Where can the folks follow you, Dave?
They can follow me at Red Coast Records on Instagram. You can follow myself and Nick. Instagram, Fools Union.
Yes.
FoolsUnion.com. Our band, check us out. Available on Spotify. Anywhere you're listening to podcasts, you'll be able to find our music. Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel. We like hearing from you. Reviews.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Nick, my friend. Rock on.
Rock on, Dave. We'll see you next week.